Hello everybody. Okay, let's talk about opening up Photoshop for the first time and taking a look under the hood and seeing what's going on inside. Alright, so let's go to File, New again, open up this new Photoshop document box here. Let's name it whatever we want again. And again, you don't have to name this whatever we want. Really, just name it whatever you want. Okay, so let's create a document that's, let's go back to pixels since we're designing for the screen, and let's just do 800 pixels by 800 pixels. So that's going to be a square. Something I haven't covered yet is this resolution here. And so resolution is just how many pixels per inch you want to show. And that's a little bit complicated, and the only thing you really need to know, and the only thing that I have to do for my day-to-day life, is that 72 here is just what you need to put for if you're designing for the screen. So if you have pixels and RGB selected, also make sure that it says 72. Now if you're designing for print, you want this to be a little bit of a higher resolution, and you want it to be 300. So again, if I were doing inches and CMYK, I would also want this to say 300. If you find that you'll be designing for the web or for the screen the most, like me, just make sure that's always on pixels, it always says 72, and it's always set on RGB. Okay, so again, 800 by 800, resolution of 72, color mode, RGB. Now this 8-bit here, that's all you need to know. You'll never need to use anything besides 8-bit. I don't ever use anything besides 8-bit, so you'll be fine. So just keep this at 8-bit. The nice thing to know about Photoshop is that there's so much going on inside of the program that you won't use most of the things in your day-to-day life, and chances are you just won't even know what half of them are. There are so many things that I don't use, but I do use a lot of Photoshop, and there are so many things that the average person doesn't use, and teaching you all of those would take months, and we only have just a few hours here on Skillshare, so I'm going to go through the most important things. But as you see, Photoshop has a lot of things that are always under the hood of everything else, and it's up to you to kind of explore what I don't teach you and figure out what they mean, because we don't have time to go over every tiny little detail. Okay, so again, background contents just means you can choose what color you want your background to be from the get-go. I always start with white, and then I move from there and just select colors after I already have my document created. Okay, so let's just press OK because we're done here. Alright, so here is my Photoshop canvas, and it looks like there's a white background here. And if you like math and numbers and you just like to know the size of things at all times, I would highly encourage you go to Command R, and that is the shortcut for showing those rulers. Do you see when I'm clicking Command R again, they go away, and then Command R, and they're back. Okay, so I like to see them all the time, but it's up to you. The default setting does not have them showing. Something else right from the get-go that I really want you to know that's a shortcut is pressing F. If you'll notice, whenever you press F, it filters through these 3 different views that Photoshop has. This one is a full screen view, which is really nice for looking around and being able to see everything at once. Clicking F again goes to this black view, which removes all of the clutter around Photoshop just so that you can concentrate right on your canvas. It's really great if you want to step back and look at what you've put on there. And then F again goes back to this tiny little window view that you can move around. So say I had a internet browser beside it, I could kind of compare and click back and forth. Normally I like to do this beautiful full screen view here. But again, that is clicking F, the F key, F for Frank, and clicking it again and again and pressing it again will go through those different views. Another way to go through those views is down here, this little button on the very far bottom left. You can click it and it will go, between those views. There we go. Okay, so this lesson is really about, I just want to kind of give you guys a little lowdown on what all of these things are and what they do, because there's a lot going on and it can be pretty intimidating. Okay, so there are a lot of terminology with Photoshop. A lot of it is kind of intuitive, what you would call these things anyway. Some of them are kind of weird, quirky Photoshop sayings. Okay, so over here on the right hand side, and this view that you see of my Photoshop should be the default view. I reset my Photoshop back to the default settings, but if you're seeing something that doesn't look like yours, just know that you will, if you keep watching these tutorial videos in this series, I will show you how to customize your own Photoshop. But again, this should look how yours does. I hope. Okay, so again, on the right-hand side, we have these large panels here. These are called windows. And if you go up here to window, you can see all of the optional windows that Photoshop has, and we'll go into this more later. But these are just called windows, and you can customize the way they look and which windows you see at all times. So that's what you're seeing over here, these large boxes. We will, again, go more into this in detail later. Up here, you just have the detail toolbar for whatever tool you have selected. And the tools that you have are over here on your left-hand side. Okay, so these are tools, and you can see there are quite a few. And each of the tools have this little arrow by them, and when you click and hold, you can see all of the tools that are inside of that tool. So again, Photoshop just has so many things that it does, and I will touch on these tools as well in a bit in another video, but these I just want you to know are tools. Okay, and then whenever you have a tool selected, you can see that there are tool options for that specific tool up on the top. This bar here is the options. So when I select a different tool, you can see those options always change depending on what tool I have selected. So again, lots of stuff to know here, lots of stuff to do in Photoshop. Okay, so we have our rulers, which I showed you already with the Command R shortcut for showing and hiding your rulers. So we have our top ruler here, and then if I move this toolbar out of the way, you can see our left-hand side toolbar over here. Okay, and that's about it for what you're looking at right when you open up Photoshop. And again, I will repeat again, we will be going into the detail of how all of these things work in future screencasts. All right, guys, see you on the next one.